Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 135, Humility, Part 1. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
I'm Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee. Thank you for listening to my podcast and welcome back. Last week I talked about gray rocking and, which is another way in a therapy world of saying that you've got some really superior boundaries. Boundaries are there to protect you and to keep you self-contained. So, I really want to just say something else about that again today, because it really works for you to be able to protect yourself and to stay self-contained. Because self-containment is a really important piece of this. Whenever you say something or do something, you have to be accountable for that. But you do not have to be accountable for what you're thinking. So, if you are gray rocking, you're dealing with someone who is emotionally dangerous to you, meaning that they lack insight and they absolutely think that everything that they say, think, and do is perfect and right. You just need to be thinking, you might think, there they go, saying that thing again that they think is perfect and right, and it's ridiculous or not, it's wrong or whatever. But if you're with that person, your job is to just be quiet. It's called self-containment, and that self-containment will protect you. And for those of us who are not narcissists, or, there are other problems too, but it's like, for those of us that aren't narcissists, it might seem so counterproductive or counterintuitive to say nothing. But if you say something, it's not going to help you. It's going to come back on you. So, boundaries, gray rocking, call it what you want, but it's about self-protection and self-containment. So now I want to move over to another topic that somebody who listens to my podcast emailed me and asked me to talk about, and that was humility. And, this person really, has been working on her childhood trauma, I guess, for a long time. That's what she's told me anyway. And one of the things that she thought was really important, that she thought was important to her and might be an interesting subject for you, is this concept of humility. Now, humility just means that in the face of other people, of nature, of God, that you're not it, okay? You're not God. You're not better than. You're not less than. But you're not better than. And that, I move this also into nature because of what we have done to the planet. It's like, have we no humility to stop destroying what has given us life? That's humility. It's like, I'm not going to hurt what I know is really not mine. Okay? We don't own this planet. We never have. We never will. I've heard this concept over time, is that we're stewards here of this planet. It was, it gives us life. Without it, we die. And people are dying. And the planet is dying. And it's not a political issue to me because, I go out and experience nature almost every day. Now, if you've been listening to my podcast, you know that I'm semi-retired. And on the days that I'm not working, which is frequent, so maybe 5 days a week or 4 days a week, I'm up in the mountains hiking or out in the desert hiking. And, my usual amount of miles is anywhere from 7 to 15 miles every time I go. And so what I notice is that I notice nature when I'm out there. And I feel humbled. I feel humility when I'm in that nature. Okay? When I'm up in the mountains, I'm absolutely, in a state of humility the whole time. I'm humbled by the strength of the forest, for instance. Now, I was just thinking about this yesterday when I was up there. And I was walking through an area that had been destroyed by a forest fire about 5 years ago. And, it's one of my favorite hikes. So for the last 5 years, I've been hiking this area on a regular basis. And after the fire, I was so sad. It's like everything, including the dust, was black. Everything was charred, okay? Because it had been destroyed by this really extreme forest fire. And over, the last 5 years, I've been going there and looking at it and noticing how it is. And yesterday I was up there and I just noticed that there are areas now of baby trees, baby pine trees, firs, baby ponderosa pines, baby pines, babies, like, anywhere from 6 inches to 3 feet tall. And, I know because I've read about it that when there's a fire in the forest and they drop the pine cones themselves burn, but before they completely burn, they open up completely. And those seeds kind of fall onto the earth and then open up. And that's where those other pine cones come, or those other pine trees and those other trees in the forest. That's how they, reforest the areas that have been burnt. So I noticed the other day, those little, I call them tree nurseries, those little tree nurseries are really growing. There's so many of them and they're just growing like crazy. And, for a minute I just stood there and I just thought, a forest fire that has completely destroyed this place, that was so hot that literally the roots of the trees blew up and created craters, real craters, like bombs had gone. That's how bad that fire was. And here was baby nurseries of trees that were coming back. And there were flowers that were coming back. And there were bushes, manzanitas, that were coming back. And I just for a minute just felt like crying. It's like when you're in a state of humility, you feel grateful. You feel amazed. You acknowledge that this has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing. And that I need to make sure that I don't hurt any of that. I have to honor it. Now, when you have that when you're in the state of humility, no matter what it's about, for me, yesterday was about that little nursery of pines and those new wildflowers that haven't been there before in the last 4 or 5 years. Those manzanitas that are growing, they're very strong and they're very beautiful. If you don't know what a manzanita is, it's a bush with really, kind of waxy leaves, and the bark though is red and it peels every year and they get redder and redder. It's a really beautiful bush. Anyway, so like I was feeling that sense of wonder and amazement and kind of sad and that this had to happen, but all of that is humility and realizing that none of this has anything to do with me. And because it has nothing to do with me, I need to honor it, and I need to take care of it, and I need to make sure that I don't hurt it. Okay? So humility is that the first part of humility is that I'm not God. I'm not the greatest in the world. I'm no better than anybody else on this planet. I'm also not less than anyone else on this planet. And, I have a right to be here because I breathe. But so do you. So does everybody. No more, no less. And when I said it comes with that sense of gratitude, it's like, think about if you really were the most important person on this planet. And you're not a narcissist, which if you think you're the most important person on the planet, you're probably a narcissist. But, let's just say that you really thought you were the most important person on this planet. How much responsibility do you think comes with that? If you're the most important person on this planet, then you alone have responsibility to make sure that climate change doesn't happen, or that it's minimal, or that it can be reversed. You're responsible for the people who, who die from it. You're responsible, it's like if you're the most important person on the planet, you're responsible for all the bad things as well as the good. And that comes, that's heavy duty responsibility. Now, like I said last time, that sense of, I'm the most important person on the planet can be, I'm in charge of everything and everybody has to do what I say and nobody can do it better. And, you are there for my pleasure, whatever that is. But it's also, I'm a pile of dog crap laying on the sidewalk that everybody has to walk around. So when I say no better and no worse, I really just mean that you have a right to be here because you breathe. And if you give that considerable thought, you might feel some humility about that. It's like, oh, well, I'm not responsible for everybody in a positive way. I'm also not responsible for everybody in a negative way. Like that sense of, ultimate responsibility is, leaves your shoulders. That means that, once again, I am only responsible and accountable for what I say and what I do. That's all. So if I lie to somebody, I need to be accountable for that. If I hurt somebody's feelings, I need to be accountable for that. And, if I've done it on purpose, I need to be accountable for that. If if your feelings are hurt just because I'm on the planet, I'm not responsible for that. You are. And you need to deal with that somehow. Being, a gay person for 72 years of my life, it's like, if that drives you crazy, well, that's just it's not about me. I feel if that drives you crazy, I feel kind of sad that you have to, be so upset by, 10 to 20% of the population. But I would really support you in looking at what it is about that drives you so crazy. And I'm just talking about facts now, not the big stories about, who you think we are, because we're just like everyone else. We just happen to, have really strong, deep feelings for people who are the same gender. And can't get those same feelings from opposite. So, I know that wasn't a mistake of nature or a mistake that God made. It wasn't a mistake at all. And if you recognize that, for instance, I'm giving you an example of humility, you recognize that, whether you're gay or straight, then you can say, wow, that just is one of those things that happens to people. And I can honor that and respect that. And that's humility. You can also say, wow, that, if you happen to be straight, you might say, well, that's probably been kind of a hard life. I'm grateful that I don't have that, but I might support you in whatever way I can. That's, humility in action. When I can honor you or honor nature or even honor God for being who they are, and that I'm not that. I'm not the king of nature. I'm not the king of the world. I'm just like everyone else. When you really feel humility, you really recognize deep within your soul that I'm not better than, say, the homeless camp. People in the homeless camp. I'm not better than them. I'm not less than them. And if I honor that, then I could start looking at it in a different way and saying, well, okay, if I'm not better than or less than, then how can I connect? And if I need to do something, I would do something that would come from a place of knowing that we're all human beings. And we all deserve to be here because we breathe. Those are really basic concepts. And if you feel like, well, I deserve to be here on this planet because I breathe, and I also have gratitude at the same time for being able to be here because I breathe, and because, and being able to, overcome whatever obstacles I have for whatever reason. My reasons for overcoming obstacles or the way I've overcome obstacles, no better than, no less than the way you've done it, then a certain honoring comes there. It's really hard to hate people when you realize that we all have the same right to be here on this planet because we breathe. And that is the deepest sense of humility I think that anyone can have. And I also believe that it's a way to honor a higher power, whoever that is. Because if you have a higher power, you know that, well, I wasn't an accident. And, I can honor that, whoever and whatever I think that involves. Now, when you see somebody in distress, you might not be able to save them. You might not be able to rescue them. You might not be able to do anything about it, but you also have feelings, a sense of compassion that, and gratitude that I don't have to be there, and that allows you to have compassion for them, whoever they are. Okay? Doesn't have to be homeless. It's like if you think that, your side of the chasm is the only side, and that all those people over there are bad and evil and wicked, and, they don't deserve to be here, then, it's like you need to, as soon as you say, oh, they deserve to be here as much as me, and the only prerequisite to be here on this planet is that I breathe. And they breathe. That's the prerequisite. We all have it. It's really hard to be hateful, angry, and feel disconnected from other human beings or from nature or from the planet when you recognize that. And it's the deepest sense of humility. If you're a person who prays, and you pray, not just, mouthing the words pray, like, oh, but you really feel the feelings that you have when you pray to whatever or whoever. Like that's a humility, but when you act it, that takes it another level. When you ask to be a kinder person, or you ask to be able to honor other people, and you take it to that other level, that is a feeling of humility that's, I think is just really, one of the most, one of the most calming sense that I know of. When I feel that, I absolutely feel like it's almost a meditation where, meditating, recognizing that, being outside myself and not just having everything be about me gives me that sense. When I'm on those trails, I'm hiking those trails, I recognize what that all means. I don't have a blood pressure issue because I do this all the time. And that's part of the reason why I'm the only person in my family that doesn't have a blood pressure issue, because I do this. I just go, gosh, I'm so glad that I can be right here now. I'm so grateful that I can be where I am and that I can breathe. And like when I was up in the mountains and I saw those little tree nurseries, they're just vibrant and green and beautiful, and the flowers and all of that I mentioned before. It's like, and recognizing that all of that has nothing to do with me. And that because I breathe and I can walk around and breathe and be alive, I can experience that in nature and just feel the presence of a power greater than me. That's such a relief. I don't have to get rid of anybody or anything. Just feel that. And I think that anybody can do that. I mean, you can walk outside. And, if you're in a heat dome right now, go out in the night. It happens at night, too. You can just walk out and look up at the sky and see the stars and the Milky Way and, all of that. You can look up there and see that. And it's just mind-blowing. But when you recognize that it has nothing to do with you, that you are just part of that bigger picture, and that you're the same, the value that you have is the same as everyone else. No better than, no less than. And you can connect with that and recognize that I'm part of this, but I'm such a little part. I had my mind blown. Oh, I guess it was last summer. Now, because I'm not in science of biology or, those, I'm more in the psychology realm, but I read and I study and I am naturally curious. So I go and read what, other people write so I can understand more. But, I was out there hiking with somebody who was a biologist. And, we were talking about this very thing, like this forest has been here for so long. And the idea that somehow I would own this forest or that, I could do whatever I want in this forest just because I'm a human being is just unnatural, right? It's been here longer than me. It will come back. I probably won't. When I'm gone, I'm gone. The dust will be there, but I'm not going to be a human being. When I'm gone, I'm just dust. So I said something like, and those rocks, those big old rocks that are sitting there, they're just there forever. They've been there forever. She says, no, they also will go away. At some point, they will go away. Lichen eats rocks. I had never known that before. All those little, yellow things and green, those, if you ever really look at rocks that have been sitting for a long time, you notice that there's lichen, Lichen, on the rocks. Those lichens are eating the rocks. And at some point, a gazillion years down the road, those rocks will be dust. They'll be gone because the lichens will have eaten them. So, everything in nature has like a beginning and an end. And, our end that I'm aware of is when we stop breathing and we die. Then that's it. That's just what I believe. But whatever you believe, you're not going to be here doing the exact same thing you're doing now anyway. But remember I said that we only are accountable for what we say and what we do. If you think there's a God or, if there's some big, masterpiece person that has, created this planet, or even if that's a, big nova explosion or whatever, how can you feel humility when you destroy what feeds you? What keeps you? What keeps you going? What keeps you breathing? Destroy it? That's not, it's like you cannot feel a sense of humility about that. Your blood pressure will go up if you think about that, or you're part of that. Your blood pressure will go up because that means that, whether or not you think you're the king of the universe, you're not. Sometimes I think, now I'm going to be real radical. So if you don't like radical thinking, then don't listen. There are billionaires in this world. There are, multimillionaires in this world. And I often wonder, do they think they're going to escape this? Well, I know that, I don't know this, but I think sometimes they think, well, we're going to create some kind of rocket that's going to take us to another place where we can live. And it's like, oh, okay, good luck with that. You're going to do this before you die, or you're going to do this when and where. But we're all in this together. And I think that if you can like go outside and really look at what is going on on your part of the planet. And, be aware that that's part of what feeds you, nourishes you, make sure that you get air to breathe. You want to protect that? You want to restore it? Or do you want to destroy it? Because there it is in front of you. If you can connect with that and feel that sense of humility that I'm talking about, you might feel like you want to protect it. And not just feel bad or sad if it's being destroyed. You'll have that feeling too. Let it motivate you, because that can motivate you to actually do something that will help that situation. I hope you do. I know I do, and other people I know do. So, if everybody participates, we might be able to turn this thing around. Okay, see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The Soulworks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. Soulworks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the Soulworks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.